So we'll end with a poem from Naomi Shihab Nye. Cross that line. Paul Robeson stood on the northern border of the USA and sang into Canada, where a vast audience sat on folding chairs waiting to hear him. He sang into Canada. His voice left the USA when his body was not allowed to cross that line. Remind us again, brave friend, what countries may we sing into? What lines should we all be crossing? What songs travel toward us from far away to deepen our days? Remind us again, brave friend, what countries may we sing into? So please continue to keep this great gift of silence as you stretch for a moment. Get some water. We don't have tea tonight, but there's a water fountain. And then come back in a few minutes and we'll have a talk. Stay in your body as you move. Let your movement be part of your meditation tonight. Continuing it.
I think it's always useful to kind of reflect on what are we doing here, this Yellow Dog Sangha. I think people peering in that know nothing about meditation would wonder, sitting still and quiet? And they do look peaceful, but what are they doing? And the interesting thing is a heck of a lot's going on, but we're just privy to it because we're being still and quiet, and we're looking within through this stillness. And there's a lot going on. And we're training. What are we training? Well, we're training to use our breath as an anchor. And with that training, then that breath can, something we can rely on every day. Pausing and going to the breath. Ah, breath. Ah. We know that. We've experienced that. And then body awareness. One time we may have thought that it was impossible to live through the whole body. I was mostly concentrated on the head and my stomach. And little did I know, when I started practicing with the whole body, that there was so much depth, so much wisdom all of wisdom, all the wisdom there is, amen, forever and amen, is found within the body. Sheesh. So within our body, we're beginning to actually experience what it is like to be a full human being. Nothing's changing, but everything's changing. And what's changing is how we're relating to this body. My relationship to the breath has changed. My relationship to whole body awareness has changed. And I had no idea that I could perceive my life through whole body awareness, and that perception is quite different than when I try to think my life. But then we look at feelings, sensations, feelings, and how feelings go into emotions, and we look at our thoughts, and we relate to them differently because all of a sudden we realize, first of all, we're not our thoughts, we're not our feelings, we're not our emotions. But it's part of this package, this human being package. So we're not changing anything, we're not pushing anything away, but we are getting to know intimately what it's about to be fully human. And then we go to the mind. Woo! Where most of our suffering occurs is through the mind. And we begin to look at the mind very closely and understand the true nature of the mind. And there's great wisdom there. Because as we connect to the mind's true nature, it's beautiful. It's a wonderful servant. But it cannot be in charge. That's where our suffering will arise, is when we don't understand. And the mind will want to be in charge. And so we've talked about all of these throughout these courses. And I thought tonight we'd talk about how the mind influences what we all can relate to as the ego. And then we begin to see how important it is to know this stuff, because it frees us from the tyranny of the mind, the knowledge of the mind. And so every human has developed a sense of a separate self. If we looked at ourselves in a big instrument that would see things magnified, we would not look separate. But through this perception of the eyes in this human body, we look separate. And we create an ego structure. And nothing is wrong with that. Just like nothing's wrong with feelings, emotions, and mind. But it's how we relate to it. It's what we know. And so we begin to see, just like we're not our thoughts and just like we're not our feelings, we begin to look at, what is this ego? What is this personhood that I hang out with? And we begin to see the ego is not any more real or any more who we are than our thoughts. Because then we begin to pay attention. We begin to look closely. Well, an ego, and we can start looking at that, is nothing more than a collection of thoughts or stories that we've told ourselves over the years. That's all it is. It's a package of stories about ourselves that we've attached to, that we're carrying with us. And it includes our beliefs, our ideas, and images about ourselves. And so what the practice does is we begin to see these stories, these mind stories, and we begin to question them. Could that be true? Could that be true about me? And remember, the ego will die when the body dies. So how could the ego be us if it's going to dissolve like everything else is going to dissolve? So we more or less make it up. We make up stories about ourselves. And they cause us a lot of suffering. And so we begin to look at that. And whatever happened even 1 second ago isn't happening now. And never will happen again. It's gone. It's memory. And it doesn't matter if it happened a week ago or a month ago or however long ago it happened, it is gone. And it comes back to us as a memory. Well, guess what happens with memory? And this is scientific. Every study that has been done on memory is we don't get it right. We don't even get close to it. Almost the second it becomes a memory, we lose touch with the realness of what happened in that present moment. So think about that. And let's look at our memories. So, what do? Well, we record what we think happened. And we record it in this mind that we begin to understand you can't always trust it. So we are recording these memories. We're creating this self-image as a result of these beliefs and things that we've used to construct this ego. So our minds are akin to a tape recorder device that it records the past and plays it in the present. But what the mind is doing is just representing what we thought happened or is. Are you with me? So when we stop thinking these thoughts about ourselves, where are we? Exactly. Thank you, Frank. That's up. A+ for you. We are present in the here and now, in the present moment, where there is complete freedom and happiness. And when we can live in the present moment, it becomes much more compelling than the mind thinking up a virtual reality for us. So we're learning to live in the here and now, in the present moment, where life can be lived fully. We're not living it through the mind that is creating a fantasy. But not only do we hold on to these mind states or these thoughts about ourselves, we hang on to as tightly our past emotions. And so these mind states and these emotions keep us preoccupied in this form with thinking and emotions. And there's no freedom in there, none, nada, no freedom at all. We're stuck. We're stuck in this small little package because that's the only thing, the only thing the mind can do. It's limited. So once we settle the mind and it settles and the body settles in their stillness, still the mind's there, everything's still there. It is through this stillness that we begin to see that we are bigger than big. There is a spaciousness and an awareness of who we are. And we're not an object. We can only experience this. This vastness can only be experienced. And we touch it through our stillness. And the more we're still, guess what? The more we touch it. And then we begin, our life changes quite naturally, with no effort, with no struggle, into more freedom and more peace. It just happens quite naturally. Why? I don't know, don't ask me. It's just the way of things. And this is what the Buddha's teachings told us. That's why just sitting like a hen on her nest is not enough. The teachings are too important because it tells you what to look for what to look at. Now I did two of them. So 90% of thinking arises as feelings, emotions, and sensations. So when we grab onto them and think that's who we are, then that causes us our suffering. So what we've done with this ego structure is we've created an internal environment. I love that. When I read that, I can't remember where I got it. I thought, yeah, that connects. I can do that. An internal environment. That's what we're creating for ourselves with an ego structure. And you know what? Some of these that we have structured for ourselves are not very friendly. We're not being very nice to ourselves. We are telling ourselves things about ourselves that are flat not true. And we're believing it. and we're believing it. And yet, as we open, as we begin to experience that vastness of who we really, really are, all of us are, we're all connected within that vastness. Then this wisdom arises, unlike wisdom that comes from the intellect. Discriminating wisdom. You can trust it, just like you can trust the body. You can trust this discriminating wisdom. And as a result, we're living our lives through that wisdom. That brings more happiness and more freedom. So what is your emotional North Pole like? And that is what we want to do. We want to get to know. What are we telling ourselves? And is that true? How long have I been saying that to myself? Oh, I'm an angry person. I'm an angry person. No, I get angry at certain things. In all these 70 years, I've gotten angry, maybe da-da-da-da-da. So I've identified myself as an angry person. It's not so. I am a person like everyone else who happens to have anger or fear or any of those emotions that come quite naturally in having a body. So see how we are our worst enemies in that way? And we're conditioned to think this about ourselves, so we come by it quite naturally. Honestly, I guess we should say. And so that's all we're doing is just looking at all this. We're not pushing anything away, and we're not making up or adding anything. We're just taking this package of human being and we're looking at it very closely and clearly, honestly. And then we begin to see, well, maybe I am complete peace. Maybe I am love. Maybe there is this goodness within me. See the difference? See how that shifts? When we all of a sudden wake up to our goodness, our stories change. So the inner environment is going to be different. Okay, I've got to move along. But I want to say this. The ego can be a person poison. Or it can be a toxicity of we can live from the toxicity of ego. Now, ego is to be known. Is it to be pushed away? Is it to be ignored? Is it not? No, it's to be known. That's it. So don't make a villain out of it, but let's just get to know it. What's our ego? So the last two things I want to say is we move from our heart, from our head, into our heart, our whole body. And we go from a place where we think we know into a very soft space in the heart, in this wholeness. So the don't know mind is in a very soft space in the heart. And we begin once we open to our true self and hang out and know the true self becomes much more compelling. With a lot more peace and freedom. So be nice to yourself. Find out what your internal environment is. I've been looking at mine. I've been looking at this internal environment. I just like that because that's true. And just think, we take this everywhere we go. Wherever we go, there we are. This internal environment that we've created for ourselves. And it can be a hell within. That is totally unnecessary. It's unnecessary suffering. And it's what we've created for ourselves. So, Randy Lee, do you have anything you'd like to say?
I really enjoyed that. It was a beautiful talk. Can we just open it up maybe to
Sure.
questions or comments or about the practice or talk or anything? You're among friends, so you can...
We all have them. They're all there with us.
Have friends?
No friends, but I was really thinking about ego.
Oh.
But you can see the honesty it takes for us to see ourselves clearly.
And the ego has no pride.
There's no pride. You're right.
It'll latch on to the stories that don't serve you. And you don't really get to root it out.
Mm-mm. No.
And that's a lot of people, when they hear these teachings, they go back to a Puritan tape that we were taught, that this self or ego is something that we're supposed to expel from ourselves. That
No.
it's original sin or something.
Right.
And that's not what we're doing here.
No.
We're just looking at it and seeing what power it does have and what power it doesn't have. And what's the truth of it.
And that differentiates this, what we're doing, our meditation practice, this particular practice, it differentiates this practice from self-help.
Yeah.
Because when we meditate with reference to the ego, we don't, there's nothing we don't make it, mold it, bend it, fold it. We just simply let it be and investigate. And then we open to the mystery. And so we can get real still. That's what one of the efforts is to let the mind get still through working with the breath, bringing the mind into the body. And we can open to that mystery and we can see clearly that we're not trying to change anything. We're just trying to see, like Paul was saying, see what's there and honor it, bow to it. And then, and treat it, whatever it is, with kindness and gentleness, love, because that's really, in essence, who we are. There's nothing we have to do. That's why I often say that in this practice, it's not about struggling, or interfering, or changing anything. It's not a self-help course. You might say there's no self to help, but we look at that too. We just explore this whole phenomenon. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, Bob.
I think one of the really key points you made is that you don't need to set up any kind of adversarial relationship with this.
Right.
No.
It's really important not to fall into that trap.
Yes.
To me, it's more like, you said, just shining a light on it and seeing what it actually is.
Yes.
To me, it's like the imagery I always get, and I forget if I've mentioned this before, but it's like finding out how a magician does the trick. You see
Yeah.
behind the curtain, you go, oh, that's what was happening. I thought, before it looked like that was happening. No, all that was going on was what I'm seeing in front of me now.
Yes.
And that seems to be more like what the process. Again, it's not throwing anything out, it's just realizing, seeing clearly what actually happens.
Seeing clearly. There's so much wisdom in that. seeing clearly, and that's it. Just seeing it as it is. And you know, that's what the Buddha says. Don't take my word for it or any of our words for it. This is something that one has to experience for oneself. Otherwise, it's just going to the mind. So you learn to trust yourself.
Anybody over here?
A phrase that helps me a lot, that was a dynamite talk, really, really good. Krishnamurti said a long time ago, to know all about yourself without any choice and without any judgment. And I can understand that because I spent my whole life judging myself.
Yes.
And not in very favorable light, like you mentioned.
Yes.
So, I don't know, that helps me, just without any choice and without any judgment, just to know.
Well, because we hide our humanness from one another. Have you noticed that? How we pretend we're not fully human because we don't accept the things that are part of being a human, like making mistakes, doing things you're ashamed of doing, you know, all those bad things that once you start looking at them are not bad things, they're conditioning. You come by them quite honestly. How? You were conditioned as a child. Yeah, and you know, so who are you going to blame? Sue?
Thank you, Anita. That was
Mm-hmm.
a lovely talk. I really enjoyed that this evening. But I'm with you totally in terms of what you were saying, Randy, in terms of us not having to change, and it's not about self-development or whatever. I mean, it is, but on a personal basis, for me, through a change in attitude and being much kinder to myself, much gentler with myself, the fruits of my practice of,
Yes.
of starting to develop. And that took a lot of work. So it wasn't just about accepting myself. I had to learn how to love myself. And when I first went to a Buddhist centre back home, I remember somebody saying, oh, it's not about changing yourself, it's just being more who you are. And I
That sounds crazy, doesn't
these
it?
people that,
Yeah.
But in a way, I do see the truth in that. But in order to get there, everybody's path will be different. And the longer I practice, the more importance I'm placing on kindness and
Yes.
gentleness, which isn't just towards myself, it's
Yes.
to us all. And it took more than just accept, well, I don't know. You know, I appreciate that's acceptance of myself.
Yes.
There was a lot of work that went into
And
Yes.
the Buddha,
It's going into that. It's a life's journey.
that's right, and the Buddhist teachings talk about the beautiful states of mind. And they're called the Brahma Viharas. And loving kindness, equanimity, joy, and that's those can be nurtured.
Absolutely. And they've helped me.
And you can imagine each of the beautiful states being developed in that way. So the Buddha talks about noticing when those states of compassion and kindness arise within ourselves or toward one another, to really pay attention to that and not let it just be like Velcro and slip off, but nurture in the Brahma Viharas. It's beautiful, yes. So we can nurture those qualities, and a lot of it is through loving kindness practice, compassion practice, and we do metta.
What's so nice about the practice is it does have some of those wonderful byproducts. Is that the word to
Yes,
use?
of course.
What happens quite naturally is exactly what Sue is talking about. It doesn't come from effort. or for wanting it to happen. It comes from a release.
And opening the heart.
It's opening to life as it is, not as we think it should be. And so what happens quite naturally is, yes, we do start connecting. We do begin to see that love has no boundaries. Boy, if we could just get that right in our country. Love has no boundaries. And yet we put boundaries around just family or people we know or people we birthed. I can't believe I just said that. But you know what I mean? You know, I can't, don't bother me with that universal love. And it happens quite naturally. So you couldn't have stopped it, or if you wanted to. It just happens. Irene?
I can see that when you're able to see clearly and be in the present moment, you experience freedom. And but within the process to get that, there is a lot of struggle. That, at least for me, and it comes from resistance to see clearly. So in my practice, I struggle too. I don't just feel. I wish I could feel peaceful and calm and happy, but to get there, I do struggle sometimes, and I do realize that it's from the resistance and from being afraid to realize the real emotion, for example, loneliness.
Right.
Or I don't want to feel that. That's not for me. Then I create more suffering. But once I see more clearly, then I experience freedom. But I don't know what the struggle fits into that.
Well, you just described the process perfectly, because you're noticing the struggle.
Yes.
That's part of this insight meditation practice, to be aware that there's a struggle, and then what does that struggle feel like? What is it? How is it manifesting in your body? How can you feel what's going on, experiencing that? So you just described the insight meditation.
You do, because the freedom from struggle is through struggle.
To noticing
It's
it.
through knowing the struggle.
It's like, the freedom from it's like any pain is in the pain. Noticing it. So you.
And that takes a lot of courage. Hello, struggle. I know you. Let me get to know you a little bit more. How are you feeling in my body? Because that's where the truth of the struggle. If you want to think about the struggle or feel it in your body, what you feel in the body is the truth. What you think about the struggle, you make up.
So we have time for a couple more. What time is it?
Yeah, anyone else?
Time to move things along.
I love the poem that you read.
Oh, yes. Wasn't that lovely?
And I was making the connection between what you were saying about love, how it's boundless and it just goes. And it reminded me of, sitting across Canada.
Yeah.
There's no
Yeah.
it
Oh,
just goes.
yes.
And love just goes.
Did you ever listen to him sing?
To who?
Paul Robeson.
Paul Robeson? Amazing. I looked him up today when I read this poem, and beautiful baritone voice. And this really did happen. He lost his ability to travel. He was accused of being a communist or something, and he really did set up and sing across the border into Canada. But you can go to his, just Google Paul, Robeson, and listen to him. It's pretty amazing. I was surprised that really is a true story.
Or go watch Showboat and listen to them sing all day.
Listen to what?
or watch, go watch Showboat and listen to him sing Old Man River.
Oh yeah, is that the?
Gorgeous voice.
He's the showboat
I
singer.
thought that
Wow.
was William Warfield. Maybe not.
Oh, you may be right.
Similar in the
Yeah.
voice quality.
That's what I was thinking. I might be wrong about that.
Okay, well it's getting kind of late and we might have to go. So,
We have to go.
so we usually end with a metta meditation, which is loving kindness. It's like Sue was saying, treating ourselves, recognizing the love within our own hearts, and letting ourselves be loved that way. So for the metta practice, you can relax, lean back a little bit, let yourself feel comfortable in kind of an easy chair. And once again, you can let your eyes close if you like. Just re-enter your body. Soften the body. You may even want to breathe in and out through the center of your heart center, just relaxing with each breath. So I'll repeat some phrases and you can repeat them to yourself or just listen if you like. But when you say the phrase or hear the phrase, let it wash over you like maybe an echo coming back from a canyon, covering your whole body. Loving kindness. May I feel safe. Feel what it feels like to be safe, free from danger, right here and now. May I feel happy and content. May I feel well in my body and mind. And may my heart rest with ease and well-being. May I feel safe. May I feel happiness, contentment. May I feel well, and may my heart rest with ease. Continuing to breathe in and out through your heart, now offering the same wish for everyone here tonight. May you also feel safe. May you feel happy, content. May you feel well in your body and mind. May your heart rest with ease and well-being. So you're offering loving kindness now and receiving it from everyone here in your own heart, letting yourself be loved. And feel what that feels like. It's okay. You are lovely. Now letting the boundless heart hold all beings. Many images may cross your mind. Family and friends, pets, people you don't know very well, people you may not like very well, people you love dearly. May all beings feel safe. May all beings feel happiness and contentment. May all beings feel well in body and mind. May all beings rest with ease. thanks everybody for coming, sharing this gift of silence together. It's wonderful and rare, really rare. Thanks for the new folks that are coming, and appreciate you being here as well.